So I was answering, if you can you hear me, guys? Hello? Okay, you can. All right. Okay, so I was answering a question. I'm going to recreate that. So someone asked me, how can I ask the school to nominate me? How does the school know that I am interested in this scholarship? I mentioned 3 or 4 ways. So the first is that as you're making your application, you might see where the school says, are you interested in Commonwealth? Once you put that you're from Nigeria, the way they set up the website, they might automatically ask you, are you interested in so scholarship? You click yes. Or they can ask, how are you going to fund your studies? Please write Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Another way is that, in fact, as you're making the application, you see the school might say, if you're interested in, here are the scholarships you are eligible for, please kindly apply. Some of them will tell you that, don't worry, they're going to consider you. Some of them will tell you to apply separately. They'll tell you to fill another form, maybe just write an essay or fill a form for Commonwealth Shared, not the main Commonwealth form. That one is quite different. Under the school's website, the school might tell you, oh, if you're interested in Commonwealth scholarship, please fill this little form that we have here. They might tell you to download it or answer some questions and then submit it back or send to an email. That's another way. But what I always advise people, which I did during my time, was sometimes the school might not tell you, the school might not show it there in their website. If you are interested, please apply. What you can do is, as you're writing your SOP, I did this. I don't know if it's a bit risky, but that's what I did. As you're writing your SOP, please include that you are interested in social scholarship, or you're interested in any financial aid that they are willing to give. There's a way you can put that in your SOP and it will make sense. It's not as if you're begging them, you don't have money, but there's a way you put it that you're interested in Commonwealth scholarship, or that you're interested in, if you want to, make it specific to Commonwealth scholarship, that's fine. If you don't want to make it specific, you want to generalize it, any financial aid that they have that you are eligible for, that you would like to be considered for it, you can add that in your SOP. So please don't email the school and tell them that you're interested in Commonwealth. If you want to ask them a question concerning Commonwealth through email, please go ahead and ask them. But there's nothing like, oh, how would this school know that I'm interested in Commonwealth? Then you start asking them to, give you the scholarship. It doesn't work that way. Some schools, once you put Nigeria, they will automatically consider you for Commonwealth Share Scholarship. Some of them, you see it as you're making your application, just click yes that you're interested. Some of them will tell you to apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Yeah. So that's it. I think I've answered that question. So we'll go over to our next speaker. I don't know, Mr. Bassi, are you here yet?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So we are going over to the essay section. Now we've dealt with everything we've been talking about. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. He's been talking about everything pertaining to the school you're applying to, your SOP, your references, your CV, how to select your schools and your courses. He has handled that. Now we are going over to the Commonwealth side. For you to apply for Commonwealth, you have to answer some questions. You need to answer some essay prompts. You see about 4 sections with 11 questions in total. Those are all essay questions. Some of them have limits. So Mr. Achibong Basi will be taking us on that. First of all, I'm just going to ask him. So the questions cover your study plan, your leadership experience, your voluntary experience, and how you're going to apply your learning when you get home. So we'll start with, so Mr. Bassi, how does your course or study relate to the developmental issues in your country and globally? So that's the very first set of questions you see in the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. They'll ask you, the course you're applying for, how does it relate to a developmental problem in your country or globally? So Mr. Bassi, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. So the first question is under the developmental impact essays. Under your developmental impact essays, there are like 4 essays under this point with some word limits which you check on the application website. Some of them are 200 word limits, some of them are 100, some of them are 250 word limits. So you'd have to check and you'd have to know this limit. So yeah, writing above the limit, you'd get penalized. And I don't even think the form allows you to write above those word limits because I think it's kind of programmed into the forms. So you may not be allowed to write above those word limits. So that's like the maximum word limit on the website. Now over to the first developmental questions, which talked about your developmental issues at the global, national, and local level. First off, you need to look for a problem you are interested in. So now you are going for a program, right, in the UK. For example, I'm doing public health, for example, and let's say I'm interested in mental health, for instance. So, and I check uh, blogs, I check research papers, I try to know how um, mental health is a major issue. Yes, I'm going to study public health, but like, let's say that's the area I'm interested in public health. And I know that mental health is a problem in my country. It could be mental health access, it could be the stigma to accessing mental health care services. So I would need to find facts that relates to this. I'll need to find evidence that relates to this so I can put it to Commonwealth. After identifying that problem now, that is the problem, that is the problem I'm focusing on, right? Mental health. So then I'll look at limitations and hindrances to why that is a problem, to why they have not addressed that problem in my country. So I'll go from the global level. I'll talk about it from the global level, mental health as a global issue. I'll talk at it in the national level. Then I'll now come and talk at it in my local community level, how it affects people day-to-day lives. Then I talk about those limitations that people face, maybe to accessing mental health. So I hope you see how it's like flowing down now. So you are going like a top-down approach. So you are starting from the top, then going down to where it really affects you and every other day-to-day person in your society. Now then, you highlight, you can either highlight any contribution you have to solving that problem, maybe any small contribution you have. If you don't have any contribution you have to solving that problem, and you can leave it at that aspect. But basically, highlight that aspect in your developmental essay. Make them know that this is what you this is the problem you're actually focusing on. This is why you have come to study. This is why you have come to study in their country. This is what you want to do. Now, the part B of the developmental essay, because I told you there are 4 parts. So the part B now will tell you to look at those developmental issues and how they are connected to your chosen Commonwealth development theme and wider sector. So the Commonwealth has a lot of teams which the courses or programs are under. So if you check the website which I sent to you, you find I think there are about 5 or 6 teams which which the approved courses are under. So there's the access, inclusion, and opportunity. There's promoting global prosperity. There's science and technology for development, strengthening global peace, security, and governance, strengthening health systems and capacity, strengthening resilience and responses to crisis. So now I'm going for a master's in public health with a concentration in mental health. I would have looked for a school that has, let's say, like a good how should I say, a good program that incorporates mental health, which obviously will fall under the theme of strengthening health systems and capacity. So I hope you see there. So I'm going back to connect it to that CSC team, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship team of strengthening health systems and capacity. So hope you are seeing how it is flowing there. So you are not just writing the essays like that. It's not just you just come and write essays. Like if you are coming to write essays, obviously now they will know you are not interested in getting the scholarship. So you have to follow those step-by-step teams and look at which one is your program under. So now for the Masters in Public Health, obviously to be under the Strengthening Health Systems team. So I'll look at that and align, right, to make it align to that team. How that Masters in Public Health align to strengthening health systems and capacity. I can write it, okay, from the aspect that, wow, I have looked at it. Oh, maybe the current COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, this is how it has been for people who are with mental health issues. So this is how, when I studied the course, in the master's course in public health, it would enable me to enforce the or strengthening the health systems of my country and also internationally or globally. So don't limit your, yes, you are looking at your local community and things that affect you, but try to extend it to the international space because they want to see your writings out there. They know that, yes, you are studying for your country, but how you also need to also relate with people who are not in your country, right? As a global leader, as an international leader. So you need to know how to write, yes, I'll do it, yes, in Africa, I'll do it in Nigeria, but I'll also try to see how it can connect to people in the world through your master's program under that Commonwealth team. Moving on, then the third team, the third question now looks at, I think that's the third question. Yeah, it will, the second part of that question, of that development team question, now we'll look at how do you intend to apply those skills. Yeah, those skills you've learned. This might be 100 words from the application website. So you check and see how many word limits is expected. So now you say, yes, you are going to the UK to acquire a master's degree. In your master's degree, you are going there for two things, your knowledge and skills, for knowledge and skills. If not, you would have just stayed in your home country because why? If you can easily gain those things elsewhere. So those knowledge and skills, now they are telling you now, tell us how you intend to use those skills until once your scholarship program has ended, once you come back to your country. Now you look at it, okay, in this public health now, what one particular skill or competency in public health now is, let's say I'm going to learn how to do research. Research can be one of the new skills I might learn that I may not already have coming from Nigeria. So now I would write now how I'm going to use the research to maybe collaborate with national organizations in my country, collaborate with research organizations, then maybe improve mental health research in my country, and make sure that those things are written in academic papers and stuff like that, so that I can make it known to the world that this is the issue of mental health in my country and stuff like that. So that will also, you can also maybe in my program, I'm going to learn advocacy skills. Now, advocacy skills is like, advocating for a cause, standing up for something. So these are some of the things I would learn in my master's program. So how will I use the advocacy skills when I come back? That's what this question is asking you. Then you tell them that, yes, advocacy, I'm going to use those skills now that I've learned in my master's in public health program to ensure that, people who have mental health issues are able to access mental health care. So are you seeing how everything is connecting? You don't just write things in abstract. Make sure your essays are connecting. Make sure your essays are connecting to the question that you are being asked. Then the third part now will say, outline what you expect that will change in development following your scholarship. Now, your developmental issues, for me now, I've chosen mental health, right? Now, mental health now, how will it change? Then you structure it into now, first, the outcomes you expect to achieve, the time frame of their implementation, who your beneficiaries will be. That's what is written in the question. That you see it on the question prompt. Now, you can say, you want to do a project when you come back for people who have mental health issues, using those skills you have learned through your your program in the UK. You tell them that, oh, this is the time frame that, okay, it's in the first project, I'll do it, let's say like in a year on return to my country. That's the time frame for the implementation of the program. Then who are the beneficiaries? Who are the people who benefit from your program? I can say, oh, the people who benefit from my program now are the people who these mental health issues affect. So I can pick maybe, let's say, maybe young people. I can pick women, and whoever that are my beneficiaries. Then I now use a fixed number. I can say, okay, about 200 and something people, or even if I don't want to write numbers, at least I will put a time frame that I will use to achieve that program. But putting numbers there makes it look more specific, more focused. That this scholar that is coming back to his country has a particular number of people they want to impact. Let's say I can put 1,000 boys and 1,000 young people. I can say 500 women that are going to be beneficiaries of my program. So it makes you look focused. It makes you look like, yes, you have something upstairs. You know what you are coming there to do and what you are going to do when you come back to your country. Now, the fourth part of the development essay, we look at how the impact of your work could be measured. Now, this part can be tricky because it depends on the kind of, on your program that you are using. Sorry, I'm using kind of like a health program because obviously I would not come and give an engineering example since I don't have an engineering experience. So now, the public, from my experience now, like let's say in public health now, we do what we call monitoring and evaluation. So that's like a step-by-step, like you are monitoring the progress of those projects. Because remember the question says you should write about, the question says write about how the impact of your work could be measured. The work that you are going to do, those projects that you are going to do for 500 women that you have written in the third part. Now they will say, how do you want to measure that? Yes, this is actually 500 people that you have done. And you say, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put maybe do a constant monitoring, or for public health we call it we have different types of evaluation. We can say a process evaluation. So I'm going to evaluate the whole process of the intervention or the project I'm going to do to the developmental issue. When I'm coming back, I'm going to measure the outcome. How will I measure the outcome now of these things? All those ones are big words. Simple things like, I'm going to develop a questionnaire that I will give people who have benefited from my project that, this questionnaire will talk about these areas of my project, what I have done, how did they feel about it? How did they feel that this is this? So that feedback is one of the ways you can use to measure the impact of your work. That's one of the things you can write there. You can do evaluation. So after the end of the stuff, all those feedback that they've given, I'm going to analyze them, use data analysis to analyze them. Data analysis obviously will be one of the skills I'll gain during my program in the UK, because it's part of research skills. So I'll analyze those data to identify the remaining gaps that are still left even after my outcome, and know how to strengthen them, how to reinforce them. So you see how everything is connecting. The previous questions now are connecting to this impact, measuring this impact, because you have to show that you are an accountable person. You have to show that this is who you are. This is when they give you this opportunity. This is how you come back. This is how we are going to measure these things that you are going to do. So that is all I can say for the developmental impact essays, 4 parts of it. So I don't know if Kendra is still there. If you have anything to add on it, you can also add.
Yeah, thank you very much, Basi. This essay thing, it's a lot. Sometimes it can get overwhelming if you're not careful. Sometimes you can mix things up. Sometimes you can have disjointed ideas, but like he said, he kept on mentioning, please let your essays flow. if somebody is reading this one and moves to the next, let it not be different ideas. He kept mentioning, if you were attentive, he kept mentioning mental health, mental health. And if you look at all his essays, you see that mental health was represented, assuming that was what he used. It's not you come to your developmental essay, you say you're looking at mental health. You come to the other part of the essay, start talking about cancer. You come to this part, you're talking on HIV. It means you're confused. You don't really know what you want, but you need to have something specific you want to concentrate on, and you run with it along all your essays. In fact, assuming he used mental health and he has volunteered in a mental health capacity sometime, he can also bring that in his leadership essay. And then you see that, oh, this guy is really passionate about mental health. He knows what he's doing. Not someone, you're talking about tuberculosis now. Tomorrow, you're talking about linear expansivity. The next essay, you're talking about children and pampers, like disjointed ideas everywhere. You look and sound very confused. Thank you, Basi. So quickly, we'll go over to the next part of the essay. This developmental essay is usually one challenge a lot of people have. That's why we started with it. So we're going to look at leadership essays and your voluntary experience. So another thing I want us to also bring out while we're talking about this, someone asked, so I would want you to capture that when you're talking, Mr. Basi. In your leadership and voluntary experience, do you just need to streamline it to anything that concerns your course you're applying for, or can you bring in other things that you've done? Thank you.
Okay. So for some persons, like for me, for instance, I applied to Chevening. So I had already been groomed on this kind of way of structuring your leadership and volunteering experience. So the method which was used for Chevening, which we were groomed to use, is what they call a STAR approach. STAR, STAR, STAR. Star in the sky. So that's the one I'm talking about. So STAR, the S stands for a situation, the T stands for a task, the A stands for action, R stands for results. Let me tell you how you can put these things into your essays, and your essays will look so juicy like this. Like anybody that is reading it will be like, this, even though how small the leadership essay is, they will be like, wow, this lady or this guy knows what they are writing. Now, you are talking about your voluntary and leadership experience. Commonwealth, obviously, is a great scholarship, as people say, because they are like so concerned about your grade. You must have 2-1, you must have first class. Now, your voluntary and leadership essays is also quite important because obviously, as a leader, you need to have engaged in some voluntary activities which have groomed you, and leadership activities which have groomed you into the person you are now and the person who you hope to be. This section is about 500 words as the word limit. So remember what I said about word limit. So always write in between that word limit. Don't write over that word limit so you don't get penalized. Now, leadership experience, yes, is very important. Now, you want to write about your leadership experience. You don't have so much experiences to write. But do you know that you've led a group project in your class? Have you forgotten that there was a time that you stood up for something and you coordinated people for something? So how can you bring these things together to make them look that, yes, this is what you have? Now, in some sections, let's say like you are going for, as I was saying, like public mental health, for instance, I'm looking at experiences that are relevant to mental health. That's my first bias, right? But that does not matter. I can also write experiences that are not in mental health, in which I have been a leader, in which I have done it as a voluntary activity to compensate for that. So it will not penalize you. It will not penalize you. But if you have all your experiences like in the areas you want to work in, or in the areas like you are interested in, the developmental areas you're interested in, quite fine, very good. But now structuring these essays in the 500 words now is the issue. So you start with a little soft landing definition, maybe your own personalized definition of what leadership is, or what you think about volunteering activities or something like that, or connect volunteering and leadership in one sentence as a preamble and throw it there for them. Now, secondly, how do you now start the essay after writing that small one line sentence in it? Then you can now start. Oh, you start with the situation. So you can write like 3 examples. 3 examples minimum is enough, because like 500 words is not so much. Like you'd even be struggling to actually shorten those things, how to make them shorter, how to make them coordinate, and like less, so that people can see what you are writing. Now you start with the situation. The situation is, what situation were you in? Let's say, for instance, now I was in a situation like let's say my class now. Okay, I studied public health as my undergraduate. So now, my class now, I was opportune to lead my classmates on let's say, a mental health advocacy project during my undergraduate. How do I talk about this as my leadership and volunteering experience? I can say, I will start with the situation. Okay, let's say maybe in 2019, while as an undergraduate, I would tell them the situation at hand. Okay, mental health issues were rising among young people in Cross River State. To resolve this issue, I led a team of so. How many people did you lead in that team? So because they want to, that's like your situation, right? That's the situation of it. So you talk about the situation. The situation is like, oh, there were mental health issues and stuff like that. No, now, how do the tax, that's the S now has gone. Now the T is the tax. How do I put this thing like a tax? Now I say, oh, to curb this issue, I was selected to be a leader of so number of team members, that's to guide or do this project or intervention to solve this issue. That's your tax there. That's T now. Then your A is now your action. What action did you do? Yes, you have said this is what you did. This is your tax is like, yes, this is your tax, that you are supposed to do this, so to guide these people. You are supposed to do this team, to do this mental health project, so that they will curb the mental health issues among young people in the States. Now, your action now will now go in depth and tell them, this is what you actually did. What did you do in that position? Is it that you actively listened to your teammates? Is it that you led the advocacy team? Is it that you delegated tasks as a good leader, as a good effective leader that you have? A leader must always know how to delegate tasks. Is it that you were able to communicate effectively? Is it that you were able to resolve conflicts among your team members so that you can achieve your objective? Which now leads us to now R, which is the result. The result now is what happened after the intervention or the project. Was it successful? Did it make, what was the feedback that you got? Remember what I said about feedback earlier in your developmental essays? Feedback are important. This is how you know that people were happy. This is how you know that you succeeded. This is how you know that your intervention or project was in line or was successful, and you were able to achieve the situation and the task that was given to you or that you were supposed to do. So now, you see that structure now. So using that structure now, you have now written your essays in a way that people actually understand. People can actually flow through it. So remember, situation, task, action, and results. What was the situation at hand? Is it that you were a class rep that was supposed to do something? During that time, maybe there was your situation would be there was election at the time and stuff like that. You were supposed to carry out that election. How did you go about it? That is your task. What were you tasked to do to make that election that departmental election successful as a leader. You talk about that your task. Then you now talk about the action. What were the steps you did as a leader that made that task successful, that now made it into the R, which is the result? So that's how you come about writing those essays. So that most people, you can follow this structure, you cannot follow this, you can also not follow this structure. But I'm sure like most people I know have been following these structures for all this leadership and like development essays, like even not for even Commonwealth Scholarship, even for other programs or activities that they have been applying for. So, oh, Kendra is like, oh, this, okay, 40-minute limit. Yeah, sorry about that. Might get off soon. They have shown us the remaining time left. So let me be quick on that. So that's how you answer that question. So situation, task, action, and result. Follow those 4 steps and everything will fall in line. And you'll be able to write those, like you can give 3 examples and follow these steps in your essay. 3 of those examples or situations where you were a good volunteer or where you were a leader. That is how you see it. So yeah, then you now end that essay, not just like that. You now end the essay with something that would make Commonwealth see it as sweet and juicy. You tell them that, okay, due to the Commonwealth achieving the Commonwealth, if I get the Commonwealth Scholarship, I'll be able to now use these leadership skills and my volunteering experience, how you expand it into the global network of people or of scholars that you are going to meet, how this leadership experience will help you to become a better leader while you are in the UK and even when you come back. And link it to how it is related to Commonwealth, how Commonwealth are also looking for driven leaders. So that's how you end that 500 words essay. And it will be very nice. Thank you so much.
And also juicy.
And also juicy.
Mr. Nice and juicy. Thank you very much, Mr. Basti. I didn't even know you were going to go so deep and use examples, but that was really, really nice. Because I remember when I was applying for my Commonwealth Scholarship, I was looking for videos of, can someone bring out their own essay, even if it's read 2 lines and show us how they wrote this thing? But I think I'll make a separate video on that and post on my YouTube channel. Maybe I'll just break down my own personal essay, not like post it, but my own personal essay. Maybe I'll break it down and show you how to. I use the STAR approach. Everybody I know that got the scholarship use the STAR approach. If you don't know what the STAR approach is, please go and read it further. Just type STAR approach on Google, read the examples. STAR approach makes it very catchy and juicy, like he said. The person is reading your story. You're carrying the person on a journey. Okay, take for instance, you go to a Facebook post. When somebody starts saying mental health is this, that, you might just pass the post. But when you see something like, I fell down that day and hit my head, you're like, let me continue reading. That first line needs to be catchy, needs to be gang, so that there's a way someone will read your first sentence. These human beings that are reading your essay, they need something that will hook them. See, the average person's what is it called? Retention is 6 seconds. Within 6 seconds, if they have not gotten what they're looking for, they will leave you and move on. And it happens everywhere. Though it's not fair, but you need that your first sentence needs to be nice and juicy. So I want to answer 2 questions before we go over to the next and the final section. Does one need TOEFL or IELTS? Mr. Basi, can you answer that? Do you need TOEFL or IELTS for this scholarship?
Well, in short, you don't need it for the scholarship, but you may need it in your individual school applications, like the application that you are submitting for the program you are going to apply for in the UK. But to put into the Commonwealth Scholarship, like the application form for the Commonwealth Scholarship is not needed. You only need your transcript and your certificates.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a very important thing I apply in all I do. I mail schools a lot. Yeah, so most of the international fees, they know me by name because I mail them a lot. Yeah, so in anything, if you need specific thing, things that are specifics, please mail the school. Like all the schools I applied in, I mailed all of them that I don't have IELTS, but I'm proficient in English language. I've studied for more than 14 years in English language all through my life. So I know English a lot. So in terms, you understand. Yeah. So most of them waived it for me. They waived the requirement. Then one of them said, okay, when I'm being nominated for the scholarship, then they'll waive the requirements. Yeah, since I told them I'm applying for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So if you see the requirement, the website that you need IELTS, please school. And some will give peculiarities to country like Nigerian. So most of the schools accept WAEC, NECO. So you need to check that. So that's just an issue.
Always check, always check, always check. But I would say, if you have already written, for those of you that don't know what IELTS is International English Language Testing System. I think that's what it means. Then TOEFL is Test of English as a Foreign Language, if I'm right. So they're all English tests to show that you're proficient in English. But if you've already written either IELTS or TOEFL, please, I would advise you use it in your application because it will give you an edge. Always, in fact, I add it everywhere because I wrote IELTS, I scored high, and I tried to add it. Somehow, I don't know if it helped, but instead of it wasting, just I shall add it that you have IELTS, you're proficient in English, you can put your IELTS score if you're proud of it. So, but if you don't have it, tell them you're, like he said, always see they reply emails, they reply. It's not like Nigeria. Here, they reply emails. Email them, no matter how stupid the question. In fact, they'll tell you if you're still confused, ask us more questions. They're willing to answer you and clear your doubts, whether you're coming to the school at the end of the day or not. So this meeting will be ending in the next 1 minute and 35 seconds. Well, let's see if so Mr. Samuel, I want to ask you a very short question. If you can just answer that within 1 minute. Someone asked, how do you represent the SDGs? Because you're also always mentioning SDGs. How do you tie it with your essays?
Okay. I think I saw that question. Well, you don't need to start explaining the SDG. Yeah, like if you have, for example, you want to work on like mental health, he talked about. You definitely know that what you need to do is linked to good health and well-being, SDG 3. So you'll be able to explain how this what do you call it? The impact you want to make, how does it link to that developmental goal? It's not that you're explaining, defining what SDG means. You're just linking it to the sustainable development, the development goal. And if you check SDG's website, we have the outcome, we have the indicators for each of those SDG and the level to which they've been achieved. So you can see from there and begin to make a case out of it, saying that, okay, we have like a shortage or a deficit in terms of achieving this kind of SDG because of so indicator that and this outcome that has not been achieved yet. So you'll be able